start it with me pouring my drink.
Yeah, we are rolling. You are pouring your drink. We all have a drink because this is the 2 month review, the semi-weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter at the University of Rochester, in which we generally take a big book, break it down bit by bit, and talk about it. But we are not doing that today. This is one of our first attempts to do a kind of new thing with 2 month review, in which we're going to do like one-off episodes on books that wouldn't really work for like a long form or something that's new, something that's of interest that might be old, that makes sense. It'll be sporadic, but we'll also do this. Well, this will be in like a supplement to the normal series. I'm Chad Post from Open Letter Books, and I'm joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox.
Thank you, Chad. Worst introduction ever.
Yeah,
Way to
really
keep it
long.
going.
You
It's
should hear
been
that.
so
You
long.
you should hear me
I'm
try and
crying.
land this fucking plane when I was doing like the 3% one in my class. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say at the end anymore. I forgot. I don't failed. And always Kaija Straumanis, translator, editor, so on and so forth.
Translator, editor, and dirty gin martini drinker. I think I like gin.
This
All
is
right.
this is very ironic given the nature of this book, which is why I
Oh
enforced
shit,
this.
is it?
Oh boy. So what we're gonna do for this first episode is we're doing Dear Dickhead by Virginie Despentes, which makes sense. It's not super long. It's under 300 pages. It also we have done Vernon Subutex, so it made sense to like revisit her new book, but not do like a whole series on it. We do have a number of these lined up, along with an announcement at the end as to like what the next big series will be, a big season. But I'd rather just jump into this. So Brian, you've obviously read Vernon Subutex because you did the podcast. Did you read any of her other books?
That and King Kong Theory.
Oh, you did read King Kong Theory.
Yeah.
Okay. And Kaya?
I read the Ren and Subutex trilogy. Yep.
You did read the whole thing.
I did read the whole thing. I even did some pinch podcasting.
Yeah, I remember that, but I couldn't remember if it was like in the first volume or whatnot. That's what I
Not
wasn't
that I
sure.
don't think it was the first one. I think it was across two and three.
Oh, okay. Okay,
But
fair enough.
I read along with one for sure. And I mean I enjoyed it because I read the other two.
Good,
And
good.
yeah.
So yeah, how would you categorize her for
How
anyone
would I?
who hasn't read Virginie Despentes?
Oh, me or Brian or both of us.
You, both of you. You go.
Um, I mean,
Okay.
what about no, I mean like 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 French Harley Davidson boss babe. Like I don't know.
Okay. Fair, fair,
Red
fair.
I like that.
red lipstick, Harley Davidson, feminism, low cut dress. I don't know. Like it's sexy, it's funny, it's very she's very good at like we were just talking before about reading in character voices. She's really good at writing her character voices. Like they're so different. They're so good.
That's one of those markers in Vernon Subutex. Brian, do you have anything you'd want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the vibe I got was like similar to Kaya. It's tough. It reminds me of like sex positive feminism.
Yeah.
Like real tough. Like I grew up in the 80s in San Francisco. And
Yeah.
so like that movement there, it makes me think of that in a lot of ways. Obviously, like Kathy Acker's like probably the first one that pops in your mind.
Yep.
But yeah, tough. It has a libertarian streak to it.
Yeah. I think
Um,
that's true too.
Having read a little bit of like Camille Paglia, I could see that being like that vein as well, where it's like pop, it's like razor tough, and yeah, and like vulgar without any like yeah, just like flamboyantly vulgar in a great kind of way.
Yeah, I agree with all those things. That seems about right. She is like so she's the author of 13 books if you count Vernon Subutex as one. Even though it's published as 3 volumes, counted as one novel, it's 13. Otherwise it's
Mhm.
15. A number of them have been translated into English, including what everyone refers to as Rape Me, but it's under the French title like Blas Moi, I guess.
Has
Um,
Frank was Frank Wynne the translator on the majority of the work, or is that just in
No,
recent?
it's a mixture of Emma
Okay,
Ramadan, and then he took
okay,
over for Vernon Subutex in this.
got it, got
Prior
it,
to
got it.
that, she did like at least Pretty Things, and I think Bye Bye Blondie? Question mark. And then there's someone else that
Yes.
um, the Rate Me book is translated by Bruce Benderson. So totally different person.
Who's the
Apologies to Emma. I remember now that she had done some as well. Yes, that's right.
Yes, because wasn't she on where she complained about or she maybe texted or something about not liking Yummy Mummy. Yummy Mummy is
Yeah, that's right.
they catch
We went into the weeds on that one. I loved that. That was fun. Yes, I
up.
recall. That was
Absolutely.
during the pandemic.
Yes, yes, yeah. Fun times. That's going to come back up, by the way.
I
So
guess, yeah.
So you guys have read some. We're familiar with her. This came out. So Dear Dickhead came out in 2022 in France. There's some reference that like the French title could be a little bit more vulgar, like maybe Dear Motherfucker or Dear Shithead. I would like Dear Fucktard to be like the actual title of it, but like I don't know that that's allowed. Nevertheless, like Dear Dickhead, it's how it's here. I know of this book because I assigned it
Okay.
to my class, which is like which is
Nice.
a mistake, another mistake that I made in my life. But they have to, for my publishing class, they have to look at like the marketing of this book and talk about how to promote it, so on and so forth. So I wanted to read it as well and read along with them. So
Were they
it,
comfortable with
they haven't done this. They haven't done this yet.
Oh, okay.
So, but nobody will say the name of it. Like when I'm like, oh, who has like which book are you assigned? Because there's three different books that they're assigned to, and they'll be like, oh, I have that French one, the
What?
French one. So I was like, I thought our students would be like all over it. They'd be like, I want Dear Dickhead, give me that, give me that. So,
Have you seen the beginning of the film American Fiction,
yeah, I saw that when I was in the theater.
where he's writing about Southern Gothic literature?
Ooh.
And he has it written on the board, and one of the students is upset about it. He's like, "Well, I've gotten over it. I think maybe you can too. Like, you can just look. I've been a dickhead my whole life. I'm comfortable with it. You can be comfortable with it." So,
It's it's an interesting book. As we'll get into this, it's an interesting book because it's for old people. Like it's not for them. Like it's for us, and
okay,
it's more for
interesting.
me than for either of you, even since you're both slightly younger than I am. Like it's for like truly middle-aged people.
So it's one of those generational, like those generational groups that does. You think this book does nail like a target towards a generational group,
It's definitely targeted towards, yes, it's targeted towards
like
people who have
Gen
like done a
X,
bunch of shit and are sort of reflecting on like where they have like kind of where they've ended up and they're kind of fucked up. And they're
old,
like,
uncool. Like you have to start realizing you're not cool anymore, right?
and like sort of straighten yourself out a little bit.
Yeah.
But there is a younger character that we'll talk about. So there is someone for them to the lens for them to go through, but it's like a really like it's a third character. It's not the main character. So anyways, let's set this up and get people into this. So the opening of the novel will give you everything that you need to know with two paragraphs. Brian, why don't you read the first one, which is from this is just to foreground this. This is an epistolary novel through like email and some social media. It goes back and forth primarily through two characters. You'll be reading all the Oscar parts, Brian, since it's the male, and Kyle, you'll be reading the two female parts, the main one being Rebecca. So, Brian, you read the first paragraph. This is the first paragraph of the book, tells you everything you need to know.
All right. So my character being Oscar, is that a play on like Wiener, Oscar Mayer Wieners
His
and
last
Dickhead?
name is like almost Jack off. It's like
Okay.
Jayak or
All right.
something
So it
like
is a
that.
phallic.
So,
It is a. All right. Just making sure.
yeah,
I just want to get into character appropriately here. All right.
you gotta be a dick.
One, Oscar, Chronicles of Chaos. Bumped into Rebecca Latte in Paris. Sorry, in Paris. Memories came flooding back of all the extraordinary characters she played, the dangerous, venomous, vulnerable, poignant, heroic women. How many times I fell in love with her, the countless photos penned up in the countless apartments over countless beds where I lay dreaming. A tragic metaphor for an era swiftly going straight to hell. This sublime woman who initiated so many teenage boys into fascinations of feminine seduction at its peak, now a wrinkled toad. Not just old, but fat, scruffy, with repulsive skin, with that foul-mouthed female persona, a complete turnoff. Someone told me she's become an inspiration for young feminists. The Fleabag sorority strikes again. Am I surprised? Fuck no. I curl up on the sofa in the recovery position and listen to Biggie's Hypnotize on repeat. Puff Daddy, I believe, was the producer of
Doing well, dude.
that track.
He's in good shape right now,
A
I think.
lot of baby oil. A lot of baby
Lot
oil.
of Costco baby oil. Okay, so this I have two questions about this. First of all, one, this Chronicles of Chaos thing, this will show up twice. This like heading for things, it never shows up again. I don't understand what it's there for at all. But also, like, this is, as you'll see in a second, is supposedly an Instagram post, but I don't know
Ah,
that this makes any sense. Okay, Kaya, you read the
Just
next
like
paragraph.
just like an Instagram story, perhaps?
But like, do you just fucking write it? It's like a weird, it's like a blog post more than an Instagram thing. I have a lot of questions about this book
Is
and
this
its
a
content.
live journal? Is this a live
Is
journal?
this a live journal? It's like, it feels at times like someone who has not gone online. I have to say that. Okay, go for it, Rebecca.
Rebecca. Okay. I'm unmuted, correct? Okay, yes. Dear Dickhead, I read your post on Insta. You're like a pigeon shitting on my shoulder as you flap past. It's shitty and unpleasant. Wah, 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 I'm a pissy little panty waste. No one loves me, so I whimper like a chihuahua in the hope someone will notice me. Congratulations, you've got your 15 minutes of fame. You want proof? I'm writing to you. I'm sure you've got kids. Guys like you always reproduce. They worry about carrying on the line. One thing I've noticed, the dumber and more incompetent men are, the more they feel a duty to carry on the line. So I hope your kids die under the wheels of a truck. You have to watch them die without being able to do anything. Their eyes pop out of their sockets and the howls of pain haunt you every night. There. That's what I wish for you. And leave Biggie in peace, for fuck's sake.
I hadn't noticed this till now, but having two lines that end carrying on the line and carry on the line, one after the other, is a little jarring.
It bothers me.
Yep, same here. So yeah, so apparently I assume like within the context of this book, she has DM'd him back after he wrote a post on Instagram with maybe no picture associated with it, which is strange. And then they begin a correspondence essentially. So the background on these two, as they start going back and forth, he writes to her and is like sort of like, "Oh, I'm sorry," you know. And the implication, if it's not stated directly here, is that he was fucked up because that's going to be one of his bits, is that he's always wasted, right? And that's why he would write something like this. So he apologizes, says that he is like frustrated with her because he is a novelist, a crime novelist who is supposedly famous. However, one of the funny jokes that's in this book, one of the funniest parts of this book is that at the very end, very, very end, not a true spoiler here, but like there's a reference to like how he should give his money to someone. And then she, Rebecca, who is a actress, sees how much money he makes on his royalties and is like, oh, fuck. You don't make anything. You're like, that's all you got? Like you're like, writers don't make cash, you know, that's lame. So he's a writer, a famous crime writer. And he is pissed at her for one reason is that he got in touch with her agent and wanted to write a scene about her. And then Brian, read three because this is what happens with him trying to write a scene because he thinks that he can get into screenwriting and that she, for various reasons, would be the star of his sort of movie.
sure. 3. But I never wrote the script. I am among the authors, and we are legion, who practice the art of procrastination. The internet doesn't help matters. I open up a Word document thinking I'll do some work, and 5 minutes later, I'm watching porn online. Lately, I've been spending my days playing dumb games on my phone. When I say day, I mean the whole day. At about 9 in the morning, I roll my first spliff. I put on a CD, turn on the radio, or look for a podcast, and I start playing until it's time to eat. By then, I've usually had a couple of spliffs, so often I'll fall asleep and wake up at about 5 when it's time for my first beer. Either this gives me the urge to go out and meet people so I can indulge in more booze, or something stronger if the opportunity arises, or I go back to skinning up spliffs and end up binge watching some TV series. I keep playing on my phone while the TV is on. I can spend 6 or 7 hours a day playing. My phone is a narc. Every week, it tells me how much time I've spent playing. And when I say dumb games, I mean dumb games, free downloads. I'm not talking fantastical worlds filled with heroic quests and magnificent graphics. Oh no, games for morons. If anyone ever stole my phone, I'd be ashamed to go and pick it up. That's how bad it is. We're talking completing every level of Candy Crush, and I pray for the bonus levels, of course. Oh, and I pay for the bonus levels, of course.
So,
Fuck yeah. Gonna crush some candos,
oh my God. So yeah, so writer is used
drop some
loosely.
lazies.
Oh my God. it's is used here as like he is a writer, but like we'll get more into that. She is an actress, like I said. However, she is aging, and so there's a lot of commentary on like the relationship between like a aging female actress and what kind of roles you would get. And her kind of responses tend to a lot of them sort of hit on that. But mainly she starts out like really like kind of attacking him and like shooting him down and being like, "Oh, you're so fucking pathetic. Like, why are you doing this? Like, you're not a real writer, blah, blah, blah." And they start becoming closer. Now, one of the reasons they become closer, and one of the things about this book that's kind of irritating, but is also like necessary for it, is that everyone ends up connected. There's not that many characters, but they're all like connected. So Oscar knows of Rebecca because Rebecca was friends, grew up in the same sort of like middle class area, which is one of the things that he goes on and on about is how he's a middle class writer and everyone thinks he's a middle class writer. And they ask him to, anytime there's a middle class thing, he's the one to talk about like the workers and so on and so forth. He's never one of the elite writers. He's like a worker. And she grew up at the same area and was friends with his older sister. And so he's like, "Well, I'm connected to you because of my older sister." Now she's like, "I don't remember you at all. I don't know who you are. I don't recall any of that." And it's clear later on that he has some weird memories about his past that are not quite accurate. This book would be a million times more interesting if that was a lie. If he would never was like he did not have a sister who was at all. That would be fascinating. That would make this book like a wild and interesting like obsession and narcissistic sort of mirror. I would have loved that. I thought for a long time, like, he's just bullshitting her. There's no sister. They have no connection. But alas, in the text,
So
it's
there was room in it that you like thought that it might go differently.
mm-hmm.
Interesting. Do you
Yeah.
think that was intentional?
I think it was to establish that they don't know each other. So like
Okay.
if he was close in age to his sister, like I think he's 10 years younger. I don't know if it specifies, but that's about what I'm thinking. He's like 6 or 7 when she's coming over and hanging out with his 17-year-old sister. So the age gap is pretty wide. If it was closer, they would have known each other better, and like this conversations they have wouldn't make sense. So it has to be like decided, but to me it was like pretty funny to think of it as like a that he's just making this up. And she's like, "Yeah, I don't know who you are." He's like, "No, really? Like, no, I have a sister, blah blah." Now I had a question for you. How do you guys feel about epistolary novels?
Love them.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, what do you have an example?
Fucking Jane Austen, man.
Jane Austen has an epistolary novel?
Probably. I don't
I
know. But
don't
no,
think so.
I do
Does
I
she?
do like the format though. It might not be Jane Austen, but I do personally I like the format.
Brian?
I'm not sure how I feel about epistolary. I feel like they need to be for me for them to work. It has to be pretty brief.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I don't know. I actually have an example that I want to use as a future 2 month review called Hopeful Monsters. That's an epistolary novel. It's long, and I think
Mhm.
is like the best example of ones I've read. There is a Jane Austen. It's Lady Susan is a novella.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, because that's the one that I read most recently. Yeah, because it's like so and I think with
In
that
fact, there
one,
are
Hey,
four.
Brian, to your point of the brevity of it, I think that's one thing that I really enjoyed about that book is that or I might be just I don't know, I might just be projecting, but I think the best epistolary novels are the ones that do mimic a real life. Like there might be times where one person might write like 2 3 letters before one of theirs is answered, like a more
Um,
an element of real timiness to it. So like do you guys remember, I mean, I don't know, you're both, I will gender this, you are both male men. Um, but I remember writing journals with my friends in high school where you'd like write notes during class and then pass them to each other during passing time between classes. And for the most part, it would be like, so and so's cute. So and so looked at me like blah, 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 homework, blah, blah, blah. And there were times where one person would write like a very, very, very long note. And you did this instead of passing notes in class. And then other times where like I can look through some of them now as I still have them where primarily me, I would just like write in like gigantic letters and be like, I don't have time. We'll write more later. How your day? Question mark. And then just like hope that my friend because I wanted to read more than I wanted to write at that point. But I do like that in an epistolary novel, um, that like it's not a consistent back and forth.
I like it better when it's a part of a novel, but it's not the entire novel. Like if you take like Dracula, for instance, or something where
Right.
because
Yes.
for it to only be correspondence, there has to be, it feels like a gimmick. There has to be some like, why is this the for like you're like you have to wrap your head around why is this the format? How come, right? You have to invent something for that to for it to hang on that. And usually
Yeah.
it's not strong enough to carry it for a full work.
That's
Fair,
that's
fair.
probably the right setup for like the next part here, but you have a comment.
Oh,
You have a comment, Kaya?
No, I was gonna say fair, and this is why I do think that like I think Lady Susan, I would recommend it, and not just because I'm a Jane Austenite. I I do sorry, I would recommend it because it's like bits and pieces from different people, like filling in gaps of rumors, but not fully elucidating the story. Also, Gin Martini, 9 out of 10.
There are three other epistolary novels she wrote:
Quiet.
Love and Friendship, Eleanor and Marianne, and First Impressions. So there are four Jane Austen novellas. None of these I have heard of, to be honest. Like
I
I've
haven't heard
heard
of the
her
ones you just
novels, but
named,
never
no.
these novellas. So interesting. I think I agree with you, Brian. Like the conceit of it, if it's not there, it doesn't work. Like it doesn't matter. Like why are you explaining things to someone? Like you explain things as if you're writing a novel to someone, and I think that's weird. In Hopeful Monsters, if I remember correctly, they're not writing to each other. They're writing journals during World War II as if they're talking to each other. Like they're not actually sending the messages so much as they're writing about like what's going on and being like, someday we're gonna meet again, I hope, kind of idea. Which would be that conceit. And so it ends up being much more novelistic, but and less epistolary, but like the kind of frame is there. So
yeah.
with this, they're writing initially because he's insulted her. She's sort of intrigued by
Mhm.
like that sort of thing. It's got that very Virginie Despentes sort of vibe to it, where like the immediate gut reaction of like a feminist perspective would be like, "Fuck you, I'm never talking to you again." But this woman's like sort of intrigued, right? And
Sure.
then she finds out what the big beat is, which is up to you, Kaya, to read in a new voice as a character again, name on the nose, Zoe Katana.
Zoe Katana, isn't she from another book too?
Ooh, I don't know. I did not
Because
look
that
that
name's
up.
familiar. Zoe Katana sounds like a Virginie DuPont, Jesus Christ, Gin Martini. Like a Vernon Subutex character. I've heard Zoe Katana before.
Are you thinking of Suicide Squad?
No, I don't believe I am.
But it doesn't come
Also,
up.
also, real quick before I read this, points to Brian for the Dracula reference. Way to go, Halloween.
All right.
And
Seasonal
Fresán.
reference for those of you playing bingo. Okay, Zoe
This is a
Katana.
long one, but this is important.
Okay, so sit back and enjoy as I will drink my drink. Chronicle of my fist in your face. I've
Okay,
been
pause for
writing.
1 second. So this
Jesus
time
Christ, Chad.
it is a blog post though, and it has that title, which makes sense as a blog post versus the first one as an Instagram doesn't make any sense to me. This is the only other time that shows up.
Okay. Chronicle of my fist in your face. I've been writing a feminist blog for years now. I'm used to the vicious pile-ons, the rape threats, the death threats, the comments on the size of my ass or the pitiful state of my intelligence. I'm used to your male rage. But until now, I've never named names. Hence the thunderous outcry since I named Oscar Jayak. I dared to tell my story. My point of view is a terrorist attack. I'm confused about my piss. Sorry, I closed a window. I'm confused about my feelings. Someone should rip out my tongue and let him speak. I say, being sexually harassed for months means waking up one day and not recognizing yourself. It means taking years to admit that you'll never come back, that the woman you were is gone forever. It's the fear you feel on a day-to-day basis. It's becoming a different person. It's the shame that someone looked for your weak spot, found it, and destroyed you. The shame that it was so easy. And the fact that no one gives a damn. I said, I didn't have the means to defend myself. And I've told others, if it ever happens to you, get out. Get out as fast as you can. I say, it's time the shame was on the other side. You're the ones blowing this all out of proportion. Not me. And your rage validates my decision. I was hired to work for the publisher because I had several degrees, had done a number of internships, because I was hardworking, meticulous, punctual, because I was a fast learner. And I was also hired because I was young and slim, because I had long, lustrous hair, big blue eyes, pale white skin, because I dressed well, because I painted my nails. It wasn't just me they were hiring, it was my youth. And in one-on-one situations with him, I never really knew how to handle things. I babbled and took a step back, looked away, left the room. I sat pressed against the door of the taxi. I squeezed my knees shut. I blushed. I forced myself to laugh. I left early. I moved his hand away. I hugged the walls. I wore flats. I ran around a desk when he was drunk and he found that hilarious. I gritted my teeth when he groped me. Then, one night, I just ran out of the place. I scurried away like a pathetic little rabbit. People saw me leave, sobbing, defeated. All they could see was the colorful little scene, the big macho author and the little PR girl. Oscar would phone me in the middle of the night, and I'd be too terrified to go back to sleep. In hotels, he'd knock on the door of my room, and I'd be too terrified to go back to sleep. I'd throw up before I went to work, but I'd smile and say, Bonjour, monsieur, like nothing had happened, because if I shouted, I was a hysteric who couldn't control herself, and if I sulked, I was unprofessional and unwilling to make an effort. It was like those nightmares where you try to scream and nothing comes out. I screamed in silence while around us the little drama entertained the gallery. People were waiting for me to give in. He was flirting with me. I was playing hard to get. We each had our roles.
So the thrust of the
Fuck! Men are the worst.
is that the I thought for a second that was part of it, and I was like, oh shit, I don't
No,
remember. I mean, I'm like
no,
trying to
that's not
find.
part of it. Just, ah, just,
So
ah,
so this
fuck.
is kind of the part of the thrust of this, in which he's been Me Too'd. And so he's like distraught about this. He's like, everyone's attacking me constantly online. If I go online, everyone's pissed. You know, what am I supposed to do? This fucking woman's like attacking me on her blog, so on and so forth.
Wait,
And
Oscar?
Oscar is to
Oh,
Rebecca.
okay.
And then
Sounds like you're being attacked. Yeah. Boo.
Rebecca's like, well, you know, she's at least she's not saying that you raped her. Like she's not saying that because he's like, I didn't do anything to her. Nothing happened. There's nothing. And then slowly but surely over the course of the book, he's like, well, yeah, I was in love with her, and I was always in love with people, and I thought that if I like pressed it, they would love me back. It wasn't that I was trying to like sexually abuse her. I just wanted her to be like my girlfriend. And he's like, becomes more and more increasingly aware that this is basically due to his like out of control drug use and alcohol abuse, right? And there's a point which I can't find now, and I should have marked it beforehand, but there's a point where he like really faces this in one of his emails to her, to Rebecca, and is like, you know, I look back now and I'm like, yeah, I would like text her things that were like passive aggressive to see if she'd like pay attention to me. I wanted her to like me. I did all these things that were like really horribly manipulative emotionally and otherwise to get her to like, you know, be there. And so he's distraught. And of course, like as a Virginie Despentes book, Rebecca's not immediately like against him and on her side. She's like a little bit like in that in between space of like, yeah, you know, like this isn't good. Like you're an asshole. You're like, but you're kind of a traditional boring asshole. Like you're not even like the most worst asshole. You're just like a typical fucking asshole, right? And then, of course, because this book is all tied together, she meets Zoe. She goes to meet her, and so on and so forth. They become connected. Zoe becomes connected to Oscar's sister. They all are like a tribe by the end of this, right? And that'll come up at the end if I give away the spoiler. Now, so this goes on for a bit. I don't know, and I have a question for you. Like, this is, I mean, it's a very like intense descriptions that she gives, and she has like the book is punctuated by her blog posts. It's like primarily like 80% Oscar and Rebecca going back and forth, then Zoe pops in every once in a while with like some other like sort of manifesto. Like this is the one that's the most closest to like the Me Too and calling him out moments. The other ones are much more like kind of philosophical, and there's a point like her second one where I was like, I don't think her character works that much anymore. And I think that that is you to read Kaija on 5.
Real quick question before I read that. I'm going to assume that there was a Me Too ousting wave in France as well. And was Virginie Despentes like one of the, was she forefront in it or like really
Did not
active in it?
did not look. However, she wrote about is it Dominique Kahn? Was it the guy that raped the maid in New York? That was the politician, the ambassador, if I remember right. She wrote about that
Okay.
at one point in time, but that was in 2011. That's like predates all of this pretty significantly. I think that's his name. Do you remember this story, anyone? I'm not saying insane things here.
No, the names are familiar, but that's why, I mean,
Dominique Strauss-Kahn.
okay. If Brian
In
wants.
2011, he was a French economist and politician, and I believe he raped a hotel, um, not maid's not the right word, room
Housekeeping.
housekeeping person. I believe that that's what it was. And so she wrote about that, but that was 2011, so that predates this by a lot. So I don't really know. There's nothing that I saw that really talks about that, but I suspect that she's like all for it and also like thinks that it's complicated. And like a
Okay.
lot of Zoe's things become about like various parts of feminism and various like flavors of it and who do you stand with and which feminist type are you? And that becomes like a lot more of what her context is. And some of it's interesting, but it really drives away from like the thrust of her first point. And one of the things I thought was kind of crazy, and I'll ask you, Brian, before you read that part, Kaya, about this, but one of the things that shows up is the word snowflake shows up 9 times in the first 40 pages, the first 70 pages. And like, that's maybe a little bit much. Like, there's something about it that's like, feels like a lot of like, I don't know. There's something about that that bugged me. It just kept coming up and everyone said it. Oscar says it, Rebecca says it, Zoe says it. They're constantly being like, I'm not a snowflake. She's a snowflake. He's a snowflake. You're a snowflake. And I was like, okay, let's settle this down. Like this feels a little tropey right now. And that's where like her second one, I didn't think was as strong, her second point. And that's where your 5 is. But as a general, before you read it, what, I mean, this is, have you read other books that are Me Too related books?
Me Too related books.
In which that's a
Um,
central plot point?
I don't know. Like it makes us like the first thing that comes to my mind was
Test of the D'Urbervilles.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Um, when the New Yorker published Cat Person,
Hmm.
Yeah,
and that became like this like everybody wanted to talk about it in class to talk about this bigger issue. This was going to be the thing that brought up those conversations.
right. But that
And if
what
you
that
actually like,
yeah.
it's an important story, but if you actually just like literature, you're like, this is what you're going to roll out as something really important. Like, man, this isn't a good story. But
Yeah.
but it was so important to people because they thought it was nonfiction
Yep.
or, or is this a conglomerate of fiction and nonfiction? Or like I felt like, it was used in a way where that became like that was the thing.
Yeah.
And
And I
there's
think
so many important works that could have been talked about and highlighted and but
I think that that's interesting too, because that is like an exemplar of it and like looks at the power dynamics and the quote unquote
yeah.
ick of it all. Whereas like I can't think of any other one right off the top of my head in which like the actual like the Me Too movement is the foregrounded thing. Like she uses that term in other blog posts and in that one that you read part of Kaya, that's part of it. Like it's very specifically that moment in time and that
Yeah.
that's happening. And it's interesting because we'll see in a second how this plays out, but like that it is so of the moment. Like she's writing of the moment and reflecting on this. Like that was in 2019 and 2018, where like there was a lot of. I think that's when the big kind of wave happens on
Where
like
was like the nasty people in publishing? There was that thing
I think it's
running around.
2019 as well.
Okay.
It's like
Is
it just
that when
pre
this book was written? I didn't check.
It's 2022. So she's
Okay.
writing it like a couple years after, but she's reflecting
Okay.
on it like
Yeah.
right after it happens in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
which is, you know,
Yeah.
very much in keeping, I think, with her style. And I think is really
Yep.
interesting as a move to make as a writer.
Mhm.
It is one of those things that's kind of like, okay, like, how are you going to place this? There's not a historical context exactly yet. Like, it's still like an
Yeah.
ongoing thing. And like a lot of the book starts to revolve around the idea of like, can Oscar be forgiven? If he becomes
Mm.
aware of this, is there a forgiveness or is that not a possibility because
A
of like what
great
happened?
question.
right? And like that's where like the book's responses online through like Goodreads and whatnot are generally like this book is like makes you feel sympathy for someone who's bad. And that's kind
Yeah.
of where she is frequently, right?
On the spectrum between Garrison Keillor and Jeffrey Epstein, where is Oscar?
I don't
Much
want to
more
be.
Garrison Keillor. Dude's a fucking creep though. The dude, that dude shat up NPR for so many years. Oh, Garrison Keillor.
I just
Anyways,
want to be clear for our podcast. I'm not that Brian Wood. I'm the
that's a very good point.
I'm the not in trouble Brian Wood. Just to
It
throw it
is
out, I don't go. I'm disgusting in my own ways, but I'm not that kind of disgusting. Just to
correct.
Brian
I'm not
Fair,
Brian
a.
fair, good
Weldon.
point.
Brian Weldon Wood. Yes. Yeah.
Is that really? No, I mean, the Brian Wood that you're talking about, the comic book writer of DMZ,
Yeah, yeah,
massive, all those
yeah,
things. Yeah, he's the one
yeah,
who like sexually assaulted women at Comic Cons, I believe.
yeah.
Really? God damn it.
Yeah,
Okay.
he
Oh,
was like one of my favorite like comic book writers, and then he like gone, and then you told me that's why, and I looked it up and was like, oh,
yeah.
cool.
Well, like I don't Google myself, but I wanted to figure out how I could market myself. I'm like, oh, I need to differentiate myself. Oh no. I always thought about writing a short story where like, what if your name's like Jeff Dahmer? Like your whole life,
Yeah,
your name's Jeff Dahmer, and you're just like this great, nice, like pediatric, you're a pediatric nurse named Jeff Dahmer. And then this case comes out, you're like, shit,
yeah,
I'm gonna call
yep.
up my friend Theodore Bundy and see if he can give me.
Oh
Hey
no.
Ted, how you
Yeah.
doing? He's like, not good, man.
No,
Not good.
never
Why?
good.
Oh no. Like when names get taken over and they're not yours anymore, like what do you do?
I
Reach out to the early elementary school nurse Lorena Bobbitt.
Dude,
Yeah.
there was like this hat came up today. Is that like I had a little bit of like not hot water, but I've caused a little bit of a controversy at the university. And someone had posted this article in which I'm referenced to on their Facebook, and someone was shitting on me, of course. And then someone defended me and was like, I think blah blah blah. Chad's not wrong. Blah 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 blah. And the person's name is Scott Russo. I was like, who the fuck's Scott Russo? Like, I don't know who this person is. And they reference being involved in small press publishing. And the first thing that comes up when you do Scott Russo is something called Law and Order Fandom, in which it says Scott Russo, occupation, actor, pathology, a phebophile, serial harasser, sexual assailant, child neglector, alleged statutory rapist, alleged assailant, alleged kidnapper. And I was like, oh shit. Like, I don't think that's the same guy, but like you're saying, like, boom, that's it. And that's Oscar's like complaint throughout this is like basically like if you go online, everything's about how he's a horrible person, right? And so
Yeah.
he's like, poor me, fuck me, everything sucks.
Does
Now, this
does the
takes a
book deal
turn.
with that though before we move on? Does it deal with him as far as like I'm just being misunderstood? Was I being that bad? Was I
Good
He
is it
question.
showing it
comes
from both sides?
he
Like
comes to an
where
awareness that he's like at the beginning he's like I never did anything. This woman, like, I don't even really, I don't really remember her. He's like sort of like hedges on it, and then he's like, oh no, she was my publicist. She says she can't get a job in publishing because he got her fired because she wouldn't sleep with him. He then starts going into like explaining like, oh, I did, like, I thought she was in love with me. I thought like I was cool, like, and that she
yeah.
wanted to be on the author. So and then he comes to really truly admit it, and where he's like, yeah, I was emotionally manipulative, and I was bad, and like
I'm
I was
gross. I
I was
abuse my
gross.
power. I yeah.
And he does try and apologize to her. There's a big confrontational scene in which
Okay.
he says to her in her face, like, I am sorry, this was wrong. I understand, like, I respect your position. I hear you, blah, blah. And she spits on him. And that becomes a whole new thing where someone takes a video of it, it goes online, and suddenly they're being called out as being like having faked this for publicity. And because it
Mm.
looks like they're intimate, like, it's very like, so it gets like twists and turns. But
Sounds
that's
like
kind of not what the
Richard
book's
Ford.
about. Like,
Richard Ford
weirdly,
and
the book's not
racism.
about Me Too at all.
Yeah.
Like, it is. It's the driving force, and it's part of this thing, but it really becomes something else. And it takes a left turn pretty early on like 123 or 120, which is where I was like, uh-oh. And this is you, Brian. Read 6.
Six.
Wait, I didn't read the part
That's
that I didn't read
okay. Let's just go
5.
past it. It's not a big
Why?
deal. Okay, read it.
Why?
Read
Are
it.
you trying
Read
to
it.
silence my
I'm
voice?
trying to silence the female voice. Go for it.
Um, but I had a question about that where no, I like Brian's question of like, does she address I guess, the male viewpoint.
She does, and she
Okay.
allows him to like say his things, and they are like at the beginning very much like the traditional like no, 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 and then it does become aware that he's aware, but like then how do you forgive that person? Like you how could you
Right.
convince someone you've changed your mind, that you've opened your mind, you've come to a new understanding? How do you convince anyone of that?
I mean, I guess like the from one perspective. Oh no, that's a different question I had. But one perspective, like, I mean, I guess people are entitled to not forgive. Like, I don't think that's the healthy option, but people are definitely entitled not to forgive.
Yeah, of
Before
course.
I read number five, Zoé Katana, because we are going to read it, because you are not going to silence my voice or Zoé Katana's voice. Chad, you asked the question about Me Too literature. I mean, have you read anything that's explicitly Me Too? Because I can't.
I couldn't think of anything, but I also don't read that many books that are like of the moment necessarily. And you have to like, it has to be written within the past like 5 years, 4 or 5 years, right?
Because there's
Um,
there's a bunch of books that deal with this topic, but they don't explicitly say hashtag me too in it.
right.
Like a
Isn't
Yeah.
great
this
example is
Blake
J.M.
Lively?
Coetzee, Diary of a Bad Year. It's
Right.
epistolatory, and it's a writer who's having somebody type something up for him because he's not good with technology, and he falls in love with her and abuses that power.
Yes.
And right, like so there's
So it's the same, it's kind of the
there's the
same
same
thing.
thing, but it's not a it's not a me too.
Right.
No, but it
Yeah.
is. It's like you just do hashtag me too in there and it's like perfectly pinpoint there.
This moment. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I was asking is like the actual like hashtag part of it. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. It
So
has
here's a question. Is a book like this is wait, it ends with us. I mean, that's about domestic violence, but at what point is, I mean, okay, I might be answering my own question, but is the difference between Me Too and domestic violence the fact that domestic happens at home?
Well, I think there's a difference in terms of like how it's presented. And this book
Right.
deals a lot with presentation online. Like this book is obsessed with presentation online. That she's
Mm.
writing a blog, that everyone's tweeting, that she's getting attacked for like calling him out, that people are piling on her and attacking her because she's doing this, but it's supposed to be like, a internet community of women having their voices heard. And then later on, she like gets into like a very strange thing where like a friend of hers comes out as bisexual and gets attacked for that by like, and there's a reference to like huge groups of like spreadsheets of dudes who attack women who say things like this, which was like I guess is true, but like it goes off into a lot of like parts about like if you speak online how that's really toxic, but the whole book is like in an online space constantly. And so like in contrast to like what you're talking about domestic violence, this is like more about the conversation and like the public representation of something, especially with public figures, and how that gets reflected through like reactions from the common populace. So it's a little bit different, but like
Like, and I guess Me Too is also, or not I guess, but I'm just remembering Me Too is based more in like a like upward mobility business aspect, right?
yeah. So
Like,
here
or
read.
like,
Oops, sorry.
no, like if I want to get to the next level in my career type of thing.
I yeah, okay. Read five because this is where like this is where I like
Yeah,
I
okay,
like her
okay.
character. I have nothing. This is not a negative thing about her character, but this is where I started to feel it's like a little tropey.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay. So Zoe Katana again. I'm an online activist. It's dangerous. I don't give a fuck. This is where I spread the word, where I respond, where I represent, where I meet people. I give precisely zero fucks about being a quote real writer like that asshole Oscar Jayak, who thinks that what he writes is important because it's part of the old lamestream media. All he stands for is his pathetic little name on bookshelves.
and like that's fine, but I don't know. There's
Wolf.
something about that is like I don't know. Like it's starting to get that like I started to lose my her appeal as a voice compared to Oscar and Rebecca.
That voice, what I just read, actually sounds more like that one part of Rebecca that I read.
That's true too. So this then swerves. So this is the big thing. I was like, is this gonna be all Me Too book? Like this is interesting. I like these top or like the kind of concept of it. But it's 300 pages. What's gonna happen? Brian reads six.
Okay. Oscar. The last time I was online, people were talking about the virus. I just told myself I'd be safe here in the middle of nowhere, that I wasn't at risk. But Jesus, the whole country in lockdown? Things have moved fast.
Boom. We are now into COVID.
All
So this
right.
is set during COVID. The bulk of this book takes place during two lockdowns in France, and that one made me groan. I don't want to read books about COVID. I know that I think it's in here because it forces them to communicate online in a way. They can't really meet each other necessarily. It like reinforces the epistolary thing. It brings up a lot of questions of like not loneliness, but being in your space, and this will play out in a second. But like COVID books, anyone?
No, Latvia had an anthology of COVID stories, and I read one, and it was fine, but I didn't read the rest.
So is this like one of those, you ever watch that show Chopped?
Is that a cooking show?
Yeah, they like open up a basket and it has like uh you know,
Pieces?
liverwurst, pink grapefruit, and Twizzlers, and you have to make a meal with the ingredients that you have. And so you're locked in this like, this basket of this is what I got to deal with. These are the ingredients I'm dealing with. Um, so when we talk about trying to deal with a tough issue online is a terrible idea. People have the ability to say the most awful, horrific. I hope your kids get run over by a truck and their eyes pop out of their heads and you watch it. Like
Yeah,
that's filthy and disgusting. And the stuff that he was saying before, like you're a toad, you're fat, and you're disgusting. Like that is awful. It's
Yep.
vitriol. But there's like
that's like peak
behind
troll behavior.
exactly, like it's a troll, it's a keyboard warrior mentality, and it's like, all right, say that to my face, and then you get cut, like, and
Yeah.
like you're
Yeah.
and you're like physically bleeding now because you can't do that in real life. So I'm wondering, is she using this Me Too? She's using online culture and then using the lockdown so that you can't actually have interaction with one another to make a meal out of this to show about our unkindness towards each other, how there is going to be no peace, there is going to be no forgiveness, no reconciliation. Is that what's happening with this work?
It is set up so that this becomes an AA book. This is a huge book for getting clean, which is why I wanted you guys to have a drink
God damn
while
it.
we do this, because that is what this book is about Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and the two of them getting clean during COVID.
Mm.
That is what the last like two-thirds of this book is, just essentially them talking about how they are glad that they're clean, how they going to their meetings on Zoom, how they go in real life, how they won't fall off the wagon, helping each other stay positive with it. And that's where through that lens that he becomes aware of that he was a shitty drunk, that he was abusive and hurtful and did things that he wouldn't normally do. And now he's changed his life by like not drinking and not smoking and not doing cocaine anymore. And she's like, I was always really good at managing my addiction. You sound like a piece of shit, but like I should just keep being addicted because I'm fucking built for this. And and it's kind of funny. And then it becomes like, holy fuck, am I reading 120 pages of people like just not doing drugs? It's weird. And that's a part that's not in a lot of it's referenced in the reviews, but it's like the fundamental part of this book is
Huh.
that like that's kind of a root cause is this kind of obsession with alcohol and with drugs and obsession with that sort of lifestyle. And like to break that, and the pandemic sets in as a way to like enforce that.
The
Like she goes,
isolation.
yeah, she goes through like how you can't really get drugs anymore. The drug dealers stop selling after 7. They have like worker hours. And that's helping her like not, relapse. But then all this stuff about like what happens when like my friend comes over and is like, I've already taken a toke. Why don't you like smoke with me? And she's like, I don't want to. And she's like, now people don't want to hang out with me, blah, blah, blah. So Brian, read 7 to just give us like an account of this.
I'm afraid of straying from the program. I don't want to go to meetings anymore or write down my steps. I was excited by the whole thing, but now all I can see is how artificial it is. I'm running out of goodwill. Also, I'm on the 6th step. You start by making a list of all your faults. Damn it. I was going to ask, like, hey, are they going to like do the I got to forgive everybody or ask for, okay, sorry.
Yep.
I feel like a
Yes, ask
hypochondriac.
Zoe's forgiveness specifically.
Yeah. You start by making a list of your faults. I feel like a hypochondriac leafing through the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. I'm fed up with sincerity. All I want is to be a complete asshole, to be negative about everything, to hate people, to feel contempt for them, to pretend they're to blame for all my problems. I'm reminded of something I heard at a meeting. Quote, a relapse is something you construct. Some catastrophes have their own architecture. It's ironic that this is happening just when you're starting the program. I want to be happy for you, but the joy has worn off. I just feel lonely and overwhelmed, maybe sad that I wasn't the one to take you to your first meeting. Convinced that the last thing you want is to be seen with me. And you'd be right. I feel like throwing in the towel. A girl at NA came up to me to say she used to read my books before, that she really liked my writing before, meaning before she knew who I really am, a stalker and a bastard. I smiled and said, I don't care. I didn't come here to talk about literature.
So there are pages and pages of this. It doesn't go through like it doesn't chronicle like steps 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 12, any of that. It
Yeah,
doesn't go
yeah.
through it specifically, but it's referenced. There's a point where she's like, "Well, fuck you. You're not gonna fall off. You're not gonna relapse because stop being like that." And then there's a point where she's going to, and he's like, "No, you helped me out. I'm gonna help you out." There's like, it's sincere, and that's sort of surprising because there's so much of her books that are kind of ironic and like standoffish or like sort of a mixed vibes on things, and this is pretty sincere seeming. And that's why I was saying at the beginning, this is a book for people my age because they are like essentially my age, like 50, and are like, I've been addicted to shit for like 40 years now, or like 30 years. I've been just drinking and smoking weed and snorting coke, and now for the first time in so many years, I'm not doing that. And like now, like the world's a whole different place, and like I can be a new person. And
Are
that's
you
kind
talking
of
about
like
Oscar or yourself?
all three, all three. Rebecca, Oscar, self. To be fair, I have had
To
a
be
surgery.
fair.
To be fair, I've had a surgery. I was not supposed to drink for a couple weeks, and I made it through those weeks, and I didn't drink through all of August. But like, I do know when I don't drink, it's like a totally different world, and I see like where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But like, as a piece of literature, it's not great addiction literature in a lot of ways. Like, it's kind of because you don't see what they are doing. You see them explaining what they were like, which is part of this epistolary thing that sort of nagged at me the whole time. Is like you're getting like a really like cleaned up, like sanitized version of what someone would write to someone else. It's not.
Yeah.
They're the first ones are off the cuff and are like, "Fuck you, you're ugly and fat," and she's like, "You're a piece of shit. Your kid should die." And then after that, they're really crafted.
Yeah.
They're like what you would write if you like took the time to like, I'm gonna write this email today and I'm gonna reread it and I'm gonna make sure it sounds right. And so like all the beats are there as if you're making a story, not a letter. And like so like the idea of like seeing what they were like at their low point doesn't really happen in this book. You're sort of told it where he's like, yeah, he's like he flies out of control with his daughter a lot, who's like, I think 15. It's unclear. She's smoking weed and he like is like, I don't smoke anymore. Is part of it, but he's like, no one, she's not gonna listen to me if I talk like that. Like, and she's always like, you were just never there. You were a drunk. You were always pissed. You're like, you're essentially not having, he was having affairs. I think he references that,
Are you
but
reading the Brad
basically,
Pitt court case?
yeah,
Are
yeah,
these,
exactly.
is this
It's
the
like that.
transcript from the Brad Pitt case?
But he's like, my affair was cocaine. I rented a separate little room to go be my writing room where I just like snort drugs and not hang out with my family. So it's like, it is very clear on like this, like bad parenting. Like was a bad, shitty drunk and a shitty drug user, but you don't see it. You see it like through the lens of like a clean person talking about their days. So like, that's not as interesting as I think it should be.
Well,
Um,
I think section eight's where it gets super interesting, where it says here, clarity. I now have clarity, and the ivermectin is really all we need. Fauci and these drug companies trying to force us to get these vaccinations is not the answer. I
There's a that to be fair,
I
again,
made that up, by the way.
Yeah.
Please.
there is, I know you made that up, but there's a point where Rebecca's like, I've never thought I'd be like, you should be vaccinated. Fuck what you think about like your like if there's some sort of chip in this. Like nobody gives a shit about you anyways. Be vaccinated. And why aren't these people wearing their masks? There is like a bit of like that part of
Mhm.
it. Like it's a little preachy, which is surprising to me, like both as like the drug thing, but also like some of the, I mean, obviously I'm like pro-vaccine and like and masking, whatever. But like but it is like a weird, it's a weird book
Is this
because
why
it's
you
not.
asked what we know of her or what we think about her, and then you don't expect like an AANA?
No,
Okay, got it.
I did not see that coming
No, because
because all of
Brennan
her characters
Text
are
is
like
like
messy.
full steam ahead.
Yeah, her characters are messy, and these two characters are messy, but they're like really trying to like, do this, and like they end, clean for like whatever period of time this is. It's unclear. Like there's certain months that go by, enough time goes by that there's a second lockdown, I believe. And I don't know what France's deal was. I don't remember us having a second lockdown, but there was like the second period where everyone was like, "Oh, you need to like be careful." And there's like a couple references that are a little snide or ironic where he's like, 1.3 million people die by car accidents every year. But if we just let people just out in this COVID thing, would like 1.3 million people die? That's how many people die every year from a car. We're not banning you from driving. Like, there's a little bit of that kind of like sort of what I'd see as her point of view of where she's like complicating things. But for the most part, it doesn't feel like she's complicating things. It's basically like, yeah, don't do drugs.
Do you think this book is earnest then?
I think so. Like that's why I'm like I'm not sure, I guess, because like if the two of you have not read this, which is the premise of this kind of one-off setup, but it doesn't read with a lot of irony. It ends like, he goes he's his sister has a stroke and Zoe's friends with his sister son his for because her sister's like, you're a piece of shit, I'm gonna befriend this woman. And she's getting so attacked and blah blah blah, and she's at the hospital when he shows up and they have like this confrontation. He apologizes to her and then he's like, I see your point of view, and I'm not doing drugs anymore, I'm clean. Like it doesn't really have like a second. I kept waiting for like a kind of twist where it'd be like sort of undercuts all of that, and instead like the closest you get is that they that they're trying to figure out how he can have forgiveness. Zoe, Rebecca, and his sister, whose name I keep blanking out on. Anyways, the three women, and they're like, well, his book takes off because of all the attention he's getting from being accused of like this harassment. Everyone buys his book, and he's like, it's dudes that buy my book, obviously. And he does make a comment at one point where he's like, I never talk about female writers as influences because men never do that. They only talk about male writers as influences. So there's like that level of awareness. But then they're like, well, what could you do to like make up for this? And they're like, give her all your royalties from the sales of this to make that fair. And that's when the joke comes up where she's like, then I saw them and was like, that's nothing. Like, your book was a big success, but like whatever. And then and she starts getting more movie roles, like things are working out for her. And then they're like, well, what you could do is cut off your finger. Since you took part of her as a human, you need to give her part of you so that every time you look at your hand, you'll know that like you have done this bad thing. That doesn't happen in the book. Instead, it just ends with them being like, maybe we should meet sometime because these emails don't feel like they feel cramped. They feel like the last line is literally like, she's like, that is her, right? She's like, yeah, Rebecca's like, I'm home now. Paris is raucous once again, but hasn't quite recovered its arrogance. The city will come through this. It's solid. I'm clean. Zoe can call if she needs to. Corinne's his sister. Corinne can call me. Marcel can call me too, but she hasn't summoned the courage just yet. That's Corinne's girlfriend. And you can call me. You can count on me. And yes, we could meet up someday. You're right. These emails are starting to feel a little cramped.
Hmm.
Doesn't seem like a lot of irony.
No.
And it ends with like a heart, a message symbol, and a send symbol like Instagram, which then goes back to that part. But I don't think they're writing on Instagram. I think they're writing in emails. Otherwise, like, fuck, man, DMs would be really a bitch to read if they're that long.
How old is Virginie? Do we know?
She was born, I want to say that I have this open. And double check. I want to say 63. Let's see. She is 55. 55. So
Okay.
just slightly older than I am.
Oh,
Um,
slightly older.
so yeah, so not
20
that much older.
years. No, she's
So
my
that's right.
mom's age.
What's that?
Yeah. She's my mom's age.
55? Your mom's not 55?
No, I thought you meant
Oh, no,
1955.
no, 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 no. She's born in 1969.
Okay.
So yes, no, no. Your mom had you very young. And that seems weird. But yeah, she's 55 years old now. She was born in
Got
June
it.
of 69. So yeah,
Gotcha.
so she's not that much older than I am. It does feel like that's what I'm saying. It feels like a midlife sort of like
Mhm.
reckoning of sorts. And I mean, good for her. Like I don't know if this is reflective of her life. She's been involved in a lot of things. She's talked about drug use very extensively. So I assume that was at some point in time a drug user, if not heavy, but at least casually. Who knows? But like, it does strike that nerve of like the 50 midlife, like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I love to drink, but I'm terrible at hangovers now.
Fuck, Jesus. Yeah.
I
And
love
it's like,
not drinking as much as I love drinking, to be honest.
yeah.
So
And it's like
very, yeah,
you get to that
sad.
age where it's like, damn, man, I can't do this anymore, but
Yeah.
I'll still try. I'm not a quitter.
I
But
I think the thing
We gotta
that's like
show up. We
weird,
gotta show up for our kids, man.
yeah, the thing that's weird to me is like not drinking, which I really
Okay.
do like as well, because I think it's very like refreshing. It's very fun, and like taking breaks off and on, and like
yeah.
drinking in moderation. All that's good. I think the thing that strikes me every time is there's so many fucking hours to the day. If you don't drink, there's so much fucking time. Like it's wild. And like I live in a world, like I live here alone right now, in a world in which all I do is read. I'm consuming something, listening to a podcast, watching a sports game, watching a dumb movie, reading books, writing about books, answering emails about books. It's so much of that. And when there's no like dulling to where it's like, oh, I'm not really focused on that. Like, there's a lot of time. Like, and that's good because I don't want to die and I'd like to have a lot of time. But it's also like feels like sometimes it's like, Jesus, how many more hours of this day are left till I can like go to bed?
Right.
Like, not having any fun. But I don't know. So the reviews, there's three big reviews that I found. One was from the New York Times, one is from the Atlantic, which I assumed would be a piece of shit since that magazine sucks, but it was just boring too. They're all boring. They don't really talk. They're basically like, this book is kind of funny. There's this back and forth, isn't she inventive? They're all very positive. There's nothing really
Isn't
like,
she inventive?
yeah, isn't she wonderful? There's not really. Oh, I didn't include my favorite line where she's like, "I don't want to do any Pilates," which is the one for you, Kaija. But this is an inside joke. You're making it look like I'm being like harassing. The
You
inside
said
joke
there's
is
no video recording, so the
no.
people
I
will
said
not
we're
know.
gonna post this. I can
Oh,
post this video
fuck.
recording. Um,
Yeah.
but the joke is that
There's
I always say I love Pilates and I want everyone to do Pilates. I'm like a big proponent of Pilates doing, and it's pretty annoying. I'm more annoying than the Alcoholics Anonymous people who are clean.
so for Christmas, Chad, you're gonna get a t-shirt that says "Ask me about my core."
Oh yeah, right on. Bring it. I'm there. I'll order that around.
Have you
Definitely.
seen
But
the SNL trailer for the horror movie Pilates?
no.
All right,
No,
just YouTube it later. You just Google SNL Pilates.
stop. There's not one.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I want to see that so bad. Yeah, so like yeah, the I don't know. The reviews didn't do anything for me. I was expecting to find like some sort of like interesting like take, but I guess this like goes back to like a general point of like I don't think people review things much anymore, like in critical ways. I think it's basically like this is
Yeah.
what this is, and it's like a positive reinforcement of the book, rather than like, this section doesn't work or like the structure is messy. There is some of that. You see it with like Merve Emre's writing and like the New York Review of Books, but like the general reviews are just kind of like whatever. Um,
It's tough though, because like I feel like her, from the little that I have read, she's very fierce and she's very brave. And so the subject matter that she deals with is also like stuff that you really wrestle with. It's hard. And so
yeah,
if you're reviewing that, you could be in a lot of trouble depending on how you want to handle, like you, like, I don't know. It's like if you want to get an award and for like take a role where you play a concentration camp, like set it in a concentration camp, and like people aren't going to be like, this movie sucks, it's terrible, I can't believe that. Like you got to be really careful because then people are going to look at you like, wait, you can't say that, right? Like, so I can see it being very difficult to review this.
Hmm.
And you're kind of might be worried about how you're going to be received because of her, like I said, like with that fierceness and that bravery and like how she just like stares at the sun where other people look away. That can be tough. It puts you in a tough spot if you're a reviewer.
Yeah, I agree. It is, and it's just like I don't know. I don't really have a complaint about it, except the fact that like I'd like there to be like I'd like to get into one of these reviews,
I agree.
like,
Yeah.
and I think that that's what this podcast sort of serves as, is that we can finally talk about the book without like it just being like a surface level thing. And like if the idea of a review is kind of your conversation piece about something, like the whole industry is pretty whack. Like
Well, nobody
it's
critiques anymore because like critique requires to embrace something, to hold it, to hug it, to consider it, to know it.
Mhm.
And it- yeah, it's people don't actually like critique. It's more being like critical.
Yeah. So I have two last things, and then we can sum up and talk about like the future of the podcast too. One is I like to do this. I started doing this for a series, and I always think it's kind of interesting, is that Dear Dickhead on Goodreads has 6,197 ratings and a 3.62 out of 5 stars. And my
Oof.
assumption, my belief is that everything is 3.5 stars. Always, everything should be about that. And that's true. And then if you go to Amazon, it is the 19th best-selling book in epistolary fiction. And Kaya, to show my ignorance, number one is Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. No idea what that book is. The one I do recognize is number seven is Ella Minnow P, a novel in letters. But I don't know if that's an epistolary novel. That's a novel in which a different letter is taken out of each chapter that you can't use. Like a Lippian thing. I don't remember it being an epistolary novel, but very well could be. And then Persuasion is on here.
Yes, persuasion. Fuck yes.
So there you go. Persuasion shows up. Doesn't reference that in the description. I do not remember this book from 40 years ago when I read it. So like I'm
Hands
at a
down,
loss.
I will argue you best Jane Austen book.
There we go. Is it an epistolary novel? Like that wasn't the one that you.
No, it is not.
So Amazon's categorization sometimes is fucking whack, I have to say.
Hey, it
But
says dear reader. It's clearly a letter.
boom. That's
You
like,
know what this whole like Dear Dickhead thing reminds me of is the Dear White People,
oh right.
Hmm.
that
Right.
movie
Yeah.
slash TV show, but I haven't watched it. Movie we watched.
So as a kind of summing up of this, would you read this book, Brian?
I I think I would up until like the first third of it sounds. I'd be along for that ride, I think. So yeah,
Kaya?
I think I probably would. I may not like it, and I might be like, by the end of it, but I think I would, just by the start of it.
Fair.
Who doesn't love the the comments section of a
And that truly
of a
is like
public forum, right?
I think I undersold this a bit, but like when she's taking digs and like he has a point of view and you're just like, oh, you whiny white little like literary boy. Like there's that vibe to it. And when she like takes shots at it, that's very fun. That's very entertaining. But that doesn't hold throughout enough
Yeah, I
for
want the
me.
tit for tat. I don't want the redemption,
Yeah, I don't want the redemption at
which
all.
is I don't know if that says something about me, but
Yeah. Like I'm
Well,
like, I
sometimes you
have
don't
an
need
ex-wife
it.
who's gone through AA and like has I've heard this before. Like I don't need
Yeah.
it. I don't need it in my fiction right now.
Well, but also sometimes redemption just doesn't really come, so it's sort of fallacious to present it. I mean, not fallacious, but like it fairy tales it, you know? Like it's not something that comes easily and it's not something that comes at all for some people, um, in terms of addiction.
And he's sort of like never forgiven or redeemed entirely. But one thing that does sort of like, I don't know if it's stated explicitly, I can't remember right now, but like the kind of vibe is like, it passed. She keeps being like, this will pass. Like it's not like you didn't like do anything criminal in the end. Like you were a horrible asshole. You're a dickhead. You're the worst. But like you didn't rape her. You know, this will at some point pass. Zoe goes through like a real emotional breakdown. Her arc we didn't really talk about, but like it's not foregrounded quite enough. But like she goes through a big emotional breakdown. But like she's like this Rebecca's like, this will kind of pass. And also you're just a fucking writer. Like you're not that popular. Like I'm a movie star. Everyone recognizes me. I go on the
Mm.
metro and they're like, I want to take a selfie with you because you're like the hot chick. And she talks about like how her breasts are like a testament, a monument to like beauty and like how everyone knows who she is. And like has like she's like, I'm a movie star. You're just a fucking writer, man.
Yeah.
And there is that kind of runs throughout too. And
I get invited to the freak off.
yeah,
You know, you're at the Hampton Inn at a conference getting gropey. All
the
right.
fact
That's the difference between me and you,
the
sucker.
the fact that there's a single character in this book who recognizes him by sight is makes it fantasy. This
Uh,
is a science fiction tale.
was this the one where you sent me a late night text about a writer being unfuckable?
Oh yeah, that's
Is that
right.
from this book? Oh,
Damn it.
that's so good.
Yes. Forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. That's in
That's
here.
so
That's in
good.
this. That's in this. Should have pulled that quote. Should
Dude,
have
you're
pulled
a
that.
writer. Like you are the most gross. Like, why would anybody want to be?
It's exactly that. It's like
Uh,
I'm a movie star. You're an unfuckable writer. Like get out of here.
You are an
Um,
asshole.
which I love, and I think Virginie Despentes. I'll read anything that she comes out with, like
yeah.
hands down. This is not my favorite book of hers, but like nevertheless, Kaya,
And I will
in
echo
your
what
hand.
Brian said, because I never officially answered. I think I would read it because I do want to read what Virginie writes, but based off of what we've talked about, I don't know that I would end up saying that I liked it at the end.
I think this book should be about 70 pages shorter. Like a 220 page book was about right. The 292 page book is a little long. Like I was finishing it last night as like the baseball game was on and I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for this to be over. And like there weren't enough beats at the end to make it like satisfactorily 300 pages.
Well, as we've all agreed explicitly, there is no reason for a book to ever be more than 199 pages. We
Yep.
all agree on that fully and completely.
You're speaking Nick Buzansky's language from Books Are Magic. He texts me every time I send him a book. He says, I will only read things under 200 pages. So quit sending me your review copies. So
Well, you know what, Nick? From now on, we're just gonna razor after 200 pages, and that's all you fucking get.
you think
All
Nick
you fucking
listens to
get.
this, which is fun.
No, which is fine because this will be the one episode that he listens to,
I
and
hope
if he
so.
doesn't, then everyone else in the world, once Nick Bugzansky starts walking around being like, open letter keeps like razoring my books. Yeah, fucker, because you only read to 200. So that's what you get. You get the two
Do
hundos
it.
and go fucking home.
Yep. Yep. Nick is super funny. He's always mad at me because I jinxed the 49ers from winning the Super Bowl. So uh
Jeez, Kai, you're
anyway,
just like Oscar. Once that martini starts hitting, I
I
mean,
yeah, you're
know.
just
you're so
like,
aggressive now.
geez,
Holy cow.
don't
I
put him in a
know. And you know
corner.
what the worst part is that once I got about a quarter of the way through it, I decided it's too sweet. I think I will like the vodka martinis better. But that's why I got a bottle of each so I can test it out after my kid goes to bed.
Oh my. So yeah, so for anyone listening at this point in time, we do have a bit of a plan for the future episodes of the 2 month review. The first thing is in 2 weeks, we're going to do something that's quite experimental and be quite interesting is to do one of these one-off episodes about Joytime Killbox. We've referenced it on every single episode of this podcast. And so we are going to talk about it with the kind of like setup that Brian, you are going to talk about what you think worked, didn't work in your own book, what you've learned, what like your influences were, what you're trying to do, and like I think it'll be interesting to get like a craft background to it, and so like where you're coming from and how that plays out. And I think that would be very interesting. I think people will really like that. And then after that, starting in November and running through the end of the year, we're gonna do a 2 book long series in which we're gonna read Confidence Man by Herman Melville. My favorite well, I mean, Moby Dick is Moby Dick, but like my favorite of the other Melville books is Confidence Man. It's fucking funny. It's got a confidence man. It's very like quirky. Fresán loves it and says that it's like the Pynchon before Pynchon sort of book. And also then following that up, we'll do Fresán's new book, Melville, with no E on the end, which is available now from Open Letter.
Good.
And you can, yeah, order it now. It's wonderful. It is about Herman Melville and Herman Melville's dad. So this is a good like Americana sort of ride for like the last 2 month review of the year. But that's the plan for those. Either of you have anything you want to add to that?
I was gonna say it's great that it's an you said Americana ride, but the one book is by Rodrigo, who's like not Americana at all.
No, but he's like, but the book
By
is
blood.
very much Americana. I mean, it's set like right. I mean, it's set in like the Hudson River.
No, I
And
know. I read
so
the
it's
fucking
like,
book.
yeah, I know you've read it, but like for
You
people who
read
are
it. We
listening,
published it, but I know. I mean, like Rodrigo himself as a person is like Argentina, Spain. Like he's the
with,
opposite of Americana.
but he has a good obsession with American writing.
That's not what I mean, though.
Yeah.
I mean by blood. By blood. Which is
Yes.
like a not, I don't know. Gin martinis, man.
So if you're listening to this, you can rate and review us if you like what you're hearing at the wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket FM, I think is a new one. I'm not entirely sure if we're on there, but if we are, rate us, review us, helps a lot. There's a
Smash
thing
that like
everyone's
button if you want to vote Kaija off of the podcast.
yeah, you can vote people off this island. I've heard this thing that a lot of people are saying you have to make sure that you auto download on Apple in particular or wherever, otherwise the podcast will stop showing up. And I have had that happen. So do that? Question mark. Anyways, tell your friends, tell everyone you know to listen. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter, I think. I won't call you a dickhead in any DMs, and I won't call you a fat toad. So you can follow along with safety. And I guess we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about Brian's short story collection.
How do you do an autopsy of your own body?
Through the alleyways, the world's your canvas, just pick up that brush and paint. If you got between a